Good evening and welcome to Tinkering with Edkelar. It is time for some more tube equipment around the lab. Woohoo! During the summer months, I managed to score one of those Heathkit T3 signal tracers. Based on the description, they are very useful for diagnostics in tube radios. The principal idea is to use the signal probes to poke around a radio to see if and what audio is happening at the probed point. This includes a very crude but effective form of AM demodulation for the RF probe. There is also an outlet on the front panel that can be used to measure the power consumption of a connected device for a quick sanity check. I'll give a more detailed rundown of the features at the end of the project. Pristine versions of this device usually go for quite a decent amount. The one I got was in, let's say, medium condition, quite dirty, possible smoker residue, and speckled with paint splatter. Somebody added a PNC connector for input as well. Why didn't they just replace the old style one? Who knows? The knobs are the worst part of the lot. None of them is truly round anymore, and there are cracks and glue residue all over. Clearly, somebody tried to fix them. Well, even from the outside, this looks like a job and a half. The inside is not much better. The top side of the chassis is covered with a thick layer of caked dust. The potentiometers are completely stuck and require tools to turn, but the worst part, all of the wiring is sticky and some of the capacitors show droplets of stuff. Since I want to use the device, I already knew that I needed to do some modification to the power transformer. I live in a 240 volt country. I also wanted to get rid of the extra socket. For these old devices, I prefer the old connector style too. The only wire that came with it had the audio input plug on one end and an RCA plug on the other. This makes me think that the most recent use for this device was as a portable speaker of sorts. Up next, checking the tubes. They all test good on the emission side, but the I-tube is very tired and barely visible. Replacements are expensive usually, but here I found a lot of 3 for the going rate of 1. It's not the same if this thing doesn't glow. The first step, after removing the tubes, is to liberate the front panel. It needs more than a bit of cleaning after all. The speaker cover is a fine wire mesh, which is bent in almost spherical, but only has one strand of wire snapped. Looks okay. The speaker clearly has seen better days. I use a soft brush to loosen up the dust layer, but my fear is confirmed. Those black dots are not some residue, but rather lots of holes. I suspect that some kid had fun poking at it with a needle of sorts. And now, liberating the chassis. All the components are held in with screws, so it does come apart neatly. Only the filter caps need some clipping. I'm replacing it anyhow, and it's mounted on the top, soldered from below. After getting all the connections off, the whole circuit finally drops away from the chassis. Yuck! I have to be careful where I touch any of it. It is sticky like honey, though nowhere near as appetizing. The wires are passed through rubber grommets, or at least they were rubber at one point. Now they have the consistency of porcelain. First up, the front panel. I tried to clean that nasty layer with IPA, but no, not enough. Anything more aggressive will probably take off the lettering, and I want to fill in that extra hole anyway, so let's go for broke. I pound the case and panel back into proper shape. There are a few dings in the metal. After scanning the existing panel for reference, I start with stripping the paint. It was banged up anyway. The case gets the same treatment. I did some research and it seems that there have been different color schemes around. I have no problem using a brighter front panel and a black case for mine. It's close to one version I saw. And I might get away with black lettering on grey background with decals rather than screen printing white letters. Let's see. The case gets a cover of regular black paint, followed by a layer of black structure paint. To fix the hole, I first epoxy a piece of aluminium in place. The odd shape is to have enough space for the switches. One huge issue on my mind is the outlet for the watt meter. The US style plugs can get away with quite a small socket. But around here we have Schuko, way too big to fit anywhere inside that device. The solution came in form of an IEC outlet. It fits into the available space inside and can be used to hook up devices. I just need to nibble out the hole for it to fit. I have some model making filler paste around, which should work fine for making the hole disappear. Fill, sand, paint. I give the front panel one layer of filler primer and 2 layers of meat grey paint. Looks already almost like new. Giving the chassis a good scrub. I think it is plated, so I rather not use sanding paper, but even as it is now, it looks already much better than before. At least it feels clean to the touch now. Now to the transformer. Getting the core out is again the most difficult part. The lacquer is holding it together like glue. At least there's no rust or mold this time. Figures. The primary winding is not the outermost one. I need to undo the heater windings first. Interestingly, the primary is next. That's a new one. Usually they are either the innermost or the outermost layer. I've never seen it sandwiched between two secondaries. The high voltage secondary can remain. The wires have snapped off, but I managed to dig out the ends of the winding to reconnect later. I'm winding up the new primary. Those old transformers didn't have a bobbin yet, so the shape was held in by the paper layers between the winding layers. Since I need to do more than double the windings with at least half the cross section, I can't afford to add insulation layers. Let's hope I can shape the winding when it's done. And for the heater windings, I reused the old wire this time. Not as neat as I'd like, but copper is also not cheap these days, and other than looking a bit crooked, it's just fine. Connecting new wires and getting ready to attach that hunk of iron back to the chassis. New grommets. I had to drill out the holes slightly, as I couldn't find that exact size. All the hardware needs some cleanup too. A Dremel wire brush does a good job. Potentiometer cleanup is next, and they really need it. The sliding switches are also in need of some cleaning and lubrication. They barely moved at all. The mode selection switch passes the audio signal, so I really wanted to get in there for a good mechanical cleaning. Those are riveted, so they need special care not to break. If the connection is too loose fitting afterwards, some epoxy will do the trick. And this is about right for part 1. Will it ever work again? Will I ever get a beep out of the speaker? Tune in next time to find out. I use a soft brush to loosen up the dust layer, but my fear is confirmed. Those black holes are dots. Definitely.